Right, let's take you to that top story now. Proceedings in the arms deal trial against the former President Jacob Zuma and the Thulasizwe group have been postponed to next month. This because Zuma is in hospital for medical observation. His legal representatives are expected to submit his medical report by next Friday. Zuma is currently serving a 15-month jail term for refusing to comply with an order to appear at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry made by the Constitutional Court. Thulasizwe Simelane has been following this case for us, and he joins us now live. Thulas, first of all, Billy Downer, the state prosecutor, making it clear in court that they are not satisfied with that letter or that affidavit that was handed in by the medical team, saying that it's too vague. Can you elaborate that further for us?
Yeah, in fact, that's a good starting point, Masejo, because there was that letter that was submitted in support of the application for a postponement of this matter. The matter was today supposed to be a hearing of arguments in support and against former President Jacob Zuma's special plea for the removal of State Prosecutor Billy Downer. But as part of that support of that application for that postponement, that letter was submitted by Mr. Zuma's current legal team, medical team, basically giving the reasons why he could not be in court today. And Billy Downer, you put it correctly, not satisfied with the contents, at least, of that particular letter, saying that it is vague and they are not given any proper idea of what Mr. Zuma's medical condition is, and basically signaling that they would want to hear more coming out of, I suppose, a fuller medical report, which is now set to be tabled before the court by Mr. Zuma's medical team by the 20th of this month. Initially, there was a bit of toing and froing in as far as by when can this medical report be submitted to the court, with Mr. Zuma's legal team led by Advocate Dalimpofu initially saying that, look, it's a matter of about a week or so, but just to be safe, let's give it 2 weeks and say latest by the 2nd of September. But Billy Downer saying that actually let's ensure that it is possible to have it submitted to the court, this medical report, by the 20th, giving allowance, of course, and flexibility for the possibility that it may not be exactly on the 20th, but maybe a day or two late. They are flexible to that, and indeed that was the order that was eventually given. So it does signal that a lot hangs on what that medical report will entail.
But the state is allowed to get its own medical team to assess the former president. Will they be taking that up for next week Friday, or is this just for the court proceedings as a whole?
So this then sets up a nice timeline between now and the 9th and the 10th of September, when the matter is supposed to be back in court one way or another, either physically here in Pietermaritzburg or virtually, as happened today. The timeline that I'm talking about is that the defense team of Mr. Zuma will have to submit the medical report done by his medical team. The state will then engage with that and look at it and, see for themselves whether they are satisfied with that medical report and accept it. If they don't, if they are not satisfied and they feel that there's something more that needs to be examined, they will then exercise that option which has now been given to them as part of that order by Judge Piet Koen to then appoint a medical officer of their choosing to actually examine Mr. Zuma in terms of Section 37 of the Criminal Procedure Act. And from that, they can then, depending on what the outcomes are, if the outcomes are similar and the independent medical officer that the state appoints supports the view of the medical officers that are attending to Mr. Zuma right now, well, then it means that on the 9th, they will be, on the same page on the 9th of September, and there's not much of an argument. But if the two medical officers or medical teams, whichever is the case, if they reach two decisions and conclusions that differ, we may find ourselves in the realm of the medical condition of Mr. Zuma being subject to a trial within a trial, where it will be argued is he unwell enough to for this matter to proceed to the arguments around the special plea that he has presented, and you can have medical officers being put to the stand and being examined and cross-examined by the various teams.
And this is not isolated, right, Thulasizwe? This will definitely in turn affect his other plea with the Constitutional Court with regards to his 15-month jail term of that contempt of court part of the Zuma court case saga. But also, Thulas, I just wanted to go back very quickly to the point you made about Billy Downer and that special plea by the former president. Is he also extending that special plea to say that it's not only this state prosecutor that is against him, but again arguing that all lawyers and just the justice fraternity is against him?
All right, I'm realizing as we are talking, Masego, that it is possible that, in my mind and trying to navigate all these issues, I perhaps may have said that the advocate who was arguing today was Billy Downer. It wasn't. It was Wim Trengove on behalf of the NPA. And if I did that, then I do apologize. And the reason that is significant is that Billy Downer is, of course, subject of the application by Mr. Zuma in terms of Section 1061H of the Criminal Procedure Act. Mr. Zuma wants Billy Downer to be removed, saying that he doesn't have title to prosecute, and that's why the NPA is represented by Wim Trengove. And what you are asking is absolutely critical. And I'll tell you, Masego, coming down to Pietermaritzburg, I was quite excitedly looking forward to seeing both sides giving voice to the arguments that they've already presented in their written submissions, because there have been these papers that have been exchanged between the parties to narrow down the areas of dispute before they are heard by the judges. In there, Mr. Zuma says not only has does Billy Downer not have title to prosecute, but the entirety of the case has been tainted beyond repair, fatally tainted by political interference that he says has happened over a period of time, that he says has now affected his fair trial rights. The state, through Billy Downer, of course, because he is the one who adduced to the affidavit in support of the state's response against Mr. Zuma. They are saying that the issues that he is seeking to raise now have already been heard and decided, what they call res judicata in Latin and in law, that you are seeking a permanent stay of prosecution through the back door. The issues you are raising have been raised and dismissed, and in any case, even if it was to be found that Billy Downer has no title to prosecute, which the state doesn't agree to, there are other prosecutors who have been duly appointed by the directors of public prosecution at various points in KwaZulu-Natal for them to lead the state's prosecution in this case. So even if you were to remove Billy Downer, the prosecution would still need to go ahead, which is of course contrary to what Mr. Zuma says, that if Billy Downer is removed, he is entitled to an acquittal there and then.
All right, let's leave it there for now. My colleague and fellow anchor Thulasizwe Simelane coming to us live from the High Court sitting in Pietermaritzburg.